Welcome back to another construct video, and in this video we're looking at update R285. Now this update brings a couple of small changes inside the construct engine, but one of the biggest changes you'll see is actually to do with the home page. Now home page has had a lot of changes. Let's look at the original one first. So this is the original one, the one that we're quite used to, where you've got all your projects down here that it recommends. We can flick through the tab. We've also got a couple of little buttons here for beginner's guide, tutorial, the arcade, etc., etc. And then new project and the free options at the top here. Now, one of the things you'll notice is we've only got the new button and then open. For open, there's our cloud file and there's something called project folder. I don't know what project folder is. I am going to do some experimenting on how that works, because that'd be really, really good if we can actually create folders of stuff instead of having it all packed into a construct file. We've got our buttons that we had before, so we've got beginner's guide, manual, tutorial. There's a couple of more options added here, so that's quite nice. So again, stuff to sort of look at. Our recent projects, this is just a huge time save, so you don't need to go into the menu and then recent and look for it that way. It's nice having them here. Social media stuff, and then we get 3 random examples. I've refreshed this a couple of times. It just seems to be completely random. I don't know what qualifies them to be on this page. It might be just what's recommended this month, but every time I refresh it, you seem to get some slightly different projects each time. Now, one of the biggest changes is to do with this browse examples. If we click on here, this is all the examples that Construct offers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of recommended, and under the categories, I'm going to click new. These are all the new stuff that's been added, and just like before, we can click on them and we've got the option to play, or we can open the folder to see inside the code. We've also got these different tags, so if you find something that you really like or want to look at stuff with a similar sort of game style, we can look at that. So for instance, if I want to look at more stuff that make use of a tile background or more arcade-based stuff, I could do that and it'll bring up these projects. So this is a really, really nice change and just makes using these examples much easier to use. We can combine multiple tags with this as well. So let's actually get rid of the new tag. And let's look at a bare bones template for beginners. So we get some examples here. So there's a car lanes one, there's a driving one, there's stuff to do with Angry Birds and platformers. We can even go further down and we can look at certain behaviors and attributes, so we can see what they used on the solid behavior. So this is really, really good, and I really, really like this. It's really easy to use and look around, and I really, really hope they take this much further. What I'd love to see is in the next big update, I'm not saying next month, but maybe 6 months down the line, to actually have a way that we can put our own projects on our own profiles and have this same sort of system to search through them. Keep the main recommended projects. I quite like the big projects being together, but also have a subcategory where you can just search other people's games and projects they've made. There's the arcade for that, but I think we need a middle ground of projects that we just want to show off some examples and some tutorials in, without having to get them completely submitted by Construct like these great examples have. So what other stuff has been added to the main game then? So let's start a new project and let's insert a 3D shape. So we'll just start off with the dice and we'll put it in and we'll have a look at its size. So its size is 120 by 120, and if we go down to its Z height, it's 15. Which is really, really strange, because if we look at it from over this corner, you'll see it's a perfect cube. Now, the problem with this is if we go into our project properties and we look, it's to do with this option here, the Z-axis scale. And it says normalize at the moment. And I believe if we had a 3D camera, you'll see we've got the Z scale here set to 5.8. And I can't change this. There's a value that can't be changed, which means when you want to get a perfect cube or you want to get the Z height of something, you have to times it by 5.8 or divide by 5.8, depends on which way you're doing it, to get the right height. This means working with 3D is even more annoying on top of the other sort of challenges we've got at the moment in Construct 3D, because now we have to work in 5.8 instead of working in single pixels like we do with everything else. So now if we do go to our project properties, we can change this normalized to regular, and this means now the 3D object uses the same measurements as everything else. So this 15 we can now change to 120, and it is a perfect cube. Big change, really welcome. You'll see the z-scale is now changed to 1. So this is a really nice change that we're able to do this, and I think most people are going to turn this on just because it makes more sense to do. Other 3D settings have been changed. I'm going to actually just load up one of the example projects for this just to save some time. So I want this first person shooter. That was handy that came up. And we can actually now change the field of view. So I go to project properties. I've now got the field of view, it's set to 45 degrees. I can play this and you'll see when it loads up, I've got that field of view, which is about 45 degrees. We'll see this more when we change it. So back to project properties, we can change this to 120. Now, for some reason, and I don't know why they've decided to do this, is when you change the field of view, it changes it inside the engine as well. I kind of wish it was just a way that we could change it and then it applies it in game only. But there'll be ways that you can use events to achieve the same sort of thing. So when the game starts, it changes the field of view from 45 to 120. So you don't have to look at it inside the engine. You can just look at it in the game. So back into the game, you'll see our field of view is changed massively now. We can see a lot more and it's a bit more disorientated. So final thing that we're going to look at is to do with layers, and we'll stick with this project while we're here. So on this layer here, we've got this initially interactive, and this is just a tick box to say, can mouse and touchscreen interact with this layer? So this is really helpful if you're doing anything like a menu system where you've got a menu that pops up or a dialog box. You don't want people to be able to interact with the stuff inside the game anymore. You want them to only interact with the menu system. Normally what you'd have to do is you'd have to go to every single sprite and turn its collision off, or do a check to say if you click on this sprite and the menu is not appearing, then you can do that. It is just a huge pain. So now we've just got a single tick box that we can tick off, and now when our menu comes up, we tick this off and we can no longer interact with other stuff on that layer. And then when the menu closes, we can tick this back on and then we can interact with the layer again. So really nice change there. Really appreciate that one. In terms of other stuff, this is the full change log. You'll see that there's not really anything else. They've improved support for copy and pasting timelines between projects. So if you do a lot of stuff with timelines, that's really useful. The Sikra arcade has just been renamed the Construct arcade, which makes sense. So they're the sort of big features this time round. I think just being able to look for example projects much easier, and maybe the start to having projects on our own profiles or being able to upload stuff a bit easier would be really nice. But I just want to make a quick video going over the changes, just so you're aware.